Welcome back to part 2 of our ex16. This is our web database insert. So we're inserting characters into our database and displaying them on the same page. So now we're going to get back to our Flask app. And what we're going to do here is just put a comment so that we know it's new code. So we'll just put new code for insert. That way we know that's new and it's different from what we used last time in our flask_app.py. And what we'll do is we'll create a function that basically adds character. So we could put def add underscore character. And then we have to put arguments, and our arguments will be our values that we're going to put in there. And it's going to be fname, lname. And notice we don't have to use ID. That's auto incrementing. We could ignore it. It'll put it in automatically. Lname, species, color, comma, and age. So we should put our colon and hit return. And then we could go down here and just copy this. We could use this again. My cursor equals my db.cursor, because remember, we're using the same variables up here, my db. So we're going to go here and paste that in there. Now we're not going to do our execute yet. We will. I mean, you could even go here and copy that, and I'll put it 2 lines down. We are going to do that, except when we execute, we're not going to execute a line of code. We're going to use variables. So I'll call it query. I'll use the variables first, and then values. So we're going to put 2 arguments in there, query and values. Now we're going to do query first, and we're going to say that's going to represent our query. So our query is going to be insert into, and then our table name, which should be, here it is right here, characters. And if you don't know, go here, table name, and then in parentheses, you're going to put all the field names separated by commas. So we'll put our field names and copy them right here. Here they are. That's easy enough. There's all the field names. And then close this off with quotes. So that represents the query. But now, actually, we're not done with that yet. I said close off the quotes. Don't close off the quotes. Go here. Before you close off the quotes, and I think we can do a shift return. Hopefully, that won't be a problem. That we can break the line here, just so it doesn't go all the way across. But we're going to put in also something called values, because here, oh yeah, they broke it here, so we should be able to do it. Values, and then we're going to put what the values are. So we're going to put values, and then in here the same way. We're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, except we're not going to put values, we're going to put %s. That's a placeholder. And we'll do %s. And separate them by commas. %s. %s, %s. And if it doesn't look right, backspace it. And actually it didn't. So I am going to have to leave it on a line, because you could see it was turning black. I want it green because that's what it is. And then, actually, let me see if we put a quote around it. Maybe it just needs the quote. No, it doesn't like breaking it here. So I'll put it back. But we do need the quote at the end. We need to finish it off. So this represents our whole query, but we have to make a variable that represents those values. So we'll just call them values. And we already used that variable there. So it is query and values. You could have them different variable names, but that works out fine. And then here, what we'll do is we'll just set up these things. So it should pull from there. When we use that argument, it should pull from the database and actually replace those with these. These are basically the columns they're in, and these should be the actual values, because we're using these names are going to be what we get from our form. Because remember, we have these names in our form. So whatever we put in the form is going to use this. So this is linking up to the form here, and it's whatever somebody puts in, whatever you put in into the form, it's going to place in here and add it to the database. And then we're going to execute the database right here. And we have to put something here at the end that we didn't do the first time. It's called mydb.commit, 1t. And it's basically a method of mydb. It's an SQL method or function that will basically allow you to keep editing it, because when you insert, you're going to keep doing that. It's not a one-time thing where you're just displaying. So we need that commit there just to make sure that it goes at the end, where we didn't need that the first time after our execute. We just basically displayed it and rendered our page. So we're going to do this, since we'll be doing this multiple times, so we can keep doing this. So that will commit putting all this into there. And that's the first part of it. Okay, that's the first part. We still didn't go through everything yet, but the next thing we're going to do is we have to get the information from the form. So that's the next part that we're doing here. So this is going to go all in here. So we're going to keep this stuff in here. And let me backspace a little bit here. And I'll put some spaces at the end so it goes up a little bit. But what we're going to do here is we're going to put an if statement first. And we're going to say if, and I was just getting confused there, because what we're going to have here in this root, there's actually another argument we're going to have to put in this root, and we're going to put, that's where we're going to put methods equals, and that's going to be get and post. And they'll be in those little blocks, almost like it's a list. So we'll go in here and put with a quote, get, quote, comma, quote, post, and finish off the block like that. So that's part of the argument for that. And I could even move this down a little bit. And again, I'll move this stuff down as well. But now in here, we're doing if request method equals post. So we can use both here. For that root, if you just refresh the page, you could use get. And if we're using a form, we're going to use post. So we're going to use if request method equals post. And we'll put a colon. And then what we're going to do is get our information from our form. So we're going to do request dot form. Now we're using this request, and eventually you'll get a message that says, what are you doing here? It's a built-in function, and we actually have to go up here and put it here. So don't forget to do this, request. You'll see it later. You'll get some message if you don't put it in there, but I'm telling you to put it in now. So put in request there because we are using it, because we didn't really define it anywhere. You were like, where did that come from? But this is a built-in, and the request object is part of Flask, which allows it to use form information. So that's why we have that in there, and that's why we have to import it from Flask. So we'll do request form equals, and we'll put in quotes fname like that. Now we're going to make a variable so that we can use this. So we're going to use this up here. So we're going to do fname equals. So fname will basically get the information from the form. So this is how we pass it on. So we're going to do fname request form and get that. And then we could just copy this, and this should be easy. Then there's going to be lname request form, and it's going to be lname. So this is pulling from the form. And then species, and then color, and then finally age. And then as part of this if block, we're also going to put in our add character, because we didn't call it yet. This is where it's defined. We're going to call it here. So in addition to getting the variables from the form, we're going to call our function inside here. So we're going to do add character. This is the function call. And again, we're going to use all these things in here. So you could really just copy these and put them here. Now remember, this should not be part of the if. So after this works okay, then it's going to go and do this. Now this is basic what we had before, and that'll basically display everything on the form. So this is just if it's getting a request method and it's getting a post, it's going to get everything from the form, and then it's going to display it. So I think we're okay. The only thing we had to do a little bit here was we had to do the insert into. We had to make our variables here for querying values. And I don't know if we need that in parentheses or not. Let me just, I think we do. I think we need these in parentheses. And I think that should be it. Make sure that you put request in here with the Flask import. And I don't know, just take a look at it. Again, this is new for me. I've never done this with Flask before. I've only done it with PHP before, which that's not easy either. But I'm starting to get used to this a little bit. I don't know every little object and method that they're using in here, but it makes sense what they're doing, and at least we're doing it all on one page. So we're putting things on index, we're getting the information, and we're just kind of spitting it out again. So let me save what I have here. And I already saved my index page. So we'll know right away if this is working or not. Now I'm not seeing any code kind of things here. If you didn't have, like for whatever reason, if you didn't put in that request there and you saved it, you're probably going to get these things. Undefined name request, and that's why you have to go here and put comma request. And then make sure you save it. Now everything's saved. Now to look at it, I could go over here and go to web, open it in a new tab. And there's my web setup, and you always want to reload it. And then you can open this in a new tab too. You could right click, open a new tab. That way if you have to go back and reload or something doesn't look right, but that looks okay. There's Sean Sharkey, that last one I did in the sample. He was added to the database before, but now we can add another one, and maybe we'll add Walruski. Walruski, and he's a walrus, and he's brown, and he's actually, Wally Walruski is going to be like 59. He was in the Navy with Mr. Krabs. I'm just making that up, but that works. So Wally Walruski is a walrus. He's brown because I think walruses are brown. And we'll see if he gets added to the database. Let's see if this works. And it didn't. So it didn't add it to the database. So now we have to troubleshoot a little bit and see why it didn't get added. All right, I found my problem. And it's this. I don't need this in square brackets. It wasn't easy to find, but I think I messed up when I first started doing that. But this should just be post, equals equals post. It should not be in square brackets like these are. So that's just a method. So it's not a form element, so it doesn't need to be in brackets. Here, when there's two of them, they do, but the single one here does not need to be in any brackets. So I think that's the problem. So let me save this, because I didn't see anything else that should be the problem when I tried it before. So I'm going to save that. And I'm going to go back to my web app. I'll reload it again. And after I reload, I think I can just refresh. And I saw a little change there, so that's good. So we're going to put in Wally, Walruski, Walrus, Brown, and age is 59 because he's friends with Mr. Krabs. So this should work. I think that was the problem because I couldn't see anything else that I screwed up. And there we go, Wally Walruski. And it looks like he got in there twice for some reason. So I'm not going to go over deleting from the database right now, even though we can. If you want to put more people in there, you want to make up more names to go in there, they get permanently added to your database. Now you could go into your database and actually delete it from there. You could run queries in your console. You could go back and open it up in the console and actually delete it there if you wanted to. But keep in mind there's an issue with the numbers restarting, so sometimes it'll even if you take this one out, it'll come up, the next one will be 14, even if you wipe him out. So I think that's it. So I think we kind of finished up here with ex16 if you get that to work. Sorry about the little mess up there. Again, some of this stuff is new to me, so I'm not used to using this request method. I had problems with it in the beginning, but again, this is being used, so if it's either, but we got it to work, and it's not a lot of code. And again, front end is a lot easier than back end, I think, other than, Bootstrap. I don't think Bootstrap was that easy, but we got to do the whole full stack here somewhat by adding characters to a database, and that's what I wanted to do here. I wanted to do it earlier in the semester, but at least we got a chance to work with some Node. We got to work with Flask a little bit, and we might go over WordPress a little bit before we're done. So that's ex16 part 2. Just indicate that you're finished in the coursework for ex16, which will be under Unit 15.